Now that we're done creating a color wheel together, let's continue to explore color theory and the way these colors interact with each other. The first principle of color theory I want us to look at is the theory of complementary colors, or the idea that every color on the color wheel has an opposite. Just like night has day, a color has its opposite. The way you find pairings of opposites is when looking at the color wheel, take a color and find the color that is directly opposite to it on the wheel. These two colors are called complementary colors. For instance, red and green are on opposite sides of the color wheel and are therefore complementary colors. And the same applies to orange and blue. But red, purple, and purple are not complementary colors because they are not opposite each other. Yellow, orange, and blue, purple are also complementary. Every color has a complementary color. Please label one complementary color on your color wheel for reference. There are two qualities that make complementary colors useful and unique. The first quality I want to talk about is contrast. Contrast is the difference between visual elements such as color, value, size, texture, etc. The more different these elements are, the more contrast they have. And because complementary colors are opposite colors, they create the highest contrast. Let's see how that's true. Looking at the first row of color boxes, we see yellow, green, purple, and orange. And inside each of the boxes, we have the color yellow. Now squint your eyes slightly and see if you can pick out the highest contrast, yellow, between the three boxes. If you said purple, yellow, you're right. And the reason why is because they're complementary colors. Now the next row we have orange, green, and red-orange. Inside of each box we have the color red. Look closely and see if you can pick out which one has the most contrasting red. If you said green-red, you're right. And again, that's because they're complementary colors. And the next row we have a box of red and blue with a green rectangle inside the two boxes. Can you see which green has more contrast? Is it the green on the red or green on the blue? The green on the blue blends in and the green on the red stands out. This is because of the high contrast that complementary colors have. Now take a look at the blue and yellow box with a rectangle of purple on top. Which purple stands out? The purple and the blue blends in and the purple and the yellow really stands out. Yellow and purple have high contrast due to being complementary colors. The last row we have purple, orange, and green with blue on top. Which blue looks the most vibrant? It is the orange and blue because they're complementary colors. And don't worry if you can't see this right away. It will take some training of your eye to be able to see this in some instances. For right now, it is important just to know that complementary colors have the highest contrast for those particular two colors. And knowing that is important because of a thing called focal point. The human eye is naturally attracted to points of higher contrast in an image, so your readers may naturally focus more attention on an area of your painting that has high contrast. This attention to one point on an image is called a focal point. One of the ways you can use what you know about complementary colors is by using it to help create focal point in a painting. Here's a painting from a picture book called My Blue is Happy. The main character of the little girl is walking in the woods with her grandpa. We have a scene with different shades of green and she's wearing a blue dress. We don't really see her very well. So to create a sharp point of contrast, I changed the blue dress to a red dress. Red is complementary to green. The red against the green creates a high contrast, which then creates a focal point. Now we can see the little girl in the painting really well. This is one of the ways that focal point is used in picture books to place the reader's eye on the main character of a story. The second quality that makes complementary colors unique is saturation. Saturation is how brilliant a color is. When we take two complementary colors and combine them, they desaturate each other and cancel each other out. We call this a neutral color. In other words, they become less and less saturated when mixed together. What we get is a gray mixture that looks like either brown or dark gray. And when we take this neutral color and add white, we can create beautiful neutral grays. Let's mix complementary colors so you can see how that works. I'm going to make two sets of neutral colors using two complementary pairings. The first complementary pairing will be red and green. Second one will be purple and yellow. So I'm painting the complementary colors red and green. I start by painting in the red and the green. Then I take red and I add a little bit of green to it. See how immediately red is less saturated? Now let's see what happens when we take green and add its complement, red. Green also immediately gets less and less saturated and darker. Now let's mix the neutral color. The neutral color for red and green is a color that visually is not too red or too green. It does not mean that you're mixing it 50-50. I'm starting with green because we know that red is a strong pigment and it takes a lot more green to change the color red than the other way around. What we're looking for is a muddy brown color. Now we add white to the neutral color to get this really rich gray. Let's mix a few more grays. Let's repeat this process by mixing purple and yellow. Starting with purple, notice how when I add yellow to it, it immediately loses its saturation. The same thing happens to yellow when I add purple to it. Now let's mix the neutral color for purple and yellow. I'm starting with purple and adding a little bit of yellow to it. You can see how the color is turning into a dark gray, almost a black. Let's take white and add our neutral color to see the neutral gray color. See how neutral colors make really nice grays? You can add a whole different dimension to your work. Let's look at an example of neutral colors being used in an illustration. This painting is from a story I wrote and illustrated called Hereafter. The story is about a girl who falls asleep waiting for her train in the woods and then dreams about forest animals who are both menacing and protective. Here I'm using neutral colors made from purple and yellow because I love the way that the complementary colors purple and yellow mix to create beautiful bluish neutral colors. And I wanted a neutral color that is bluish because to me, this can give the feeling of nighttime. Also, I decided to use mostly desaturated colors in the image so that when I do add saturation to certain areas, it creates contrast and therefore a focal point to guide the reader's eye and help them to understand the meaning of the painting. In this example, I wanted to have more saturation in the purple flower and the girl, both of which are significant to the story. Now let's see a side-by-side comparison with a version of this painting that uses grays made from black and white. The tone feels different because grays made from black and white are not as rich as neutral grays. And when I say rich, what I'm referring to is the sheer number of different neutral colors you can create by mixing two complementary colors. Using a variety of neutral colors and neutral grays in your color palette adds color diversity to the image. If you were to only use grays made from black and white, the color diversity or richness of the image will be limited because there's only one quality of gray that you get from mixing black and white.